In the early hours of April 12, 1861, in Charleston, South Carolina, the rebel militia of the newly seceded Confederate States would open fire upon Fort Sumter, starting the American Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln would immediately give out a presidential proclamation calling upon the services of 75,000 volunteers for the next 3 months to put down the rebellion. Only 5 militia companies in the Union were organized to respond. They were known as the First Defenders. One of these groups was known as the Jefferson Lightguards. The Jefferson Lightguards were based out of Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. The unit was formed in 1845 out of a former militia group of Allegheny County and took its name from Jefferson College in Canonsburg, due to the students and teachers who served within its ranks. After the surrender of Fort Sumter, First Lieutenant James T. Kirk organized an enrollment drive to gain members. They would gain 77 members after making the elections. Kirk would be made captain of the Jefferson Lightguards. On May 7, 1861, the Jefferson Lightguards would march to Camp Wilkins, a training camp in Lawrenceville made out of the old Allegheny County Fairgrounds. They would spend the first 2 months doing drill from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then dress parade at 5 p.m. On June 28th, the Jefferson Lightguards would be designated as D Company in the newly formed 10th Regiment Infantry of the Pennsylvania Reserve Volunteer Corps. On July 1st, now as a regiment, the troops would march up the Allegheny River to Camp Wright and continue their training. On July 18th, the 10th Reserve would leave towards Harrisburg, then to Washington, D.C. At this time, the reserves would relinquish their state designation and join the U.S. Army. They would arrive on July 22nd and board trains to head to Washington, D.C.'s defense and land in the capital on August 5th. They stayed in Tenellytown, a village 6 miles northwest of the capital, setting up Camp Tenelly, and would remain there for about 2 months. On September 4th, news came of an upcoming rebel attack aimed upon their camp in the next 48 hours. At 8:30 a.m., the enemy would fire upon the division's picket station at Great Falls. Fire was returned by artillery, and the 7th and 8th regiments were sent out. At 11 a.m., the enemy left and reinforcements were called back. On October 10th, Pennsylvania reserves would leave Tenellytown for Prospect Hill, Virginia, and set up Camp Pierpoint. They would be immediately set upon by small attacks from Confederates trying to establish a position nearby. In mid-December, Confederate foraging parties had moved within 5 miles of the Union's line and taken prisoners and had begun making threats. On December 19th, the Jefferson Lightguards would see their first sight of battle at Drainesville. The reserves would be ordered to surround and capture the party and collect materials from farms. They would leave that morning with 4,000 men towards Drainesville. The men entered at 11 and prepared an ambush. The Confederates, of which contained 1,600 men, were alerted and ordered to attack. The Jefferson Lightguards were ordered to cut down fences in order for other regiments to cut across the field to flank. The group would not lose a single soldier in the battle. On March 14, 1862, troops moved out to Fredericksburg. Jefferson Lightguards were ordered to build bridges over the river. They would be placed on picket duty when they arrived near Mechanicsville. On June 25th, the Provost Marshal inquired with the Jefferson Lightguards to act as Provost Guard or military police, but would have to wait for approval. On June 26th, Confederate soldiers attacked the reserves at the Battle of Mechanicsville. None of the Jefferson Lightguards were killed. At 4 a.m., they received orders to fall back. The 10th Regiment was the last to leave as they had to keep the Confederates at bay. The Light Guard would reach a new position at the second line of defense at the Battle of Gaines' Mill. The battle resulted in Confederate victory, and the Jefferson Lightguards would suffer 1 casualty, 6 wounded, and 3 imprisoned. In their retreat, they would blow up bridges behind them. They would march towards and be caught at the Battle of Glendale. 13 soldiers of the Jefferson Lightguards would be wounded, while 3 would be mortally wounded. After these battles, the Lightguards would finally serve as military police for the next year and a half, with the only casualties being from illness. They would be dismissed and sent back home after 2 years of fighting, and they would return to Canonsburg on Thursday, June 9, 1864, with a feast prepared for the men.